All right, welcome to the Fantasy Labrats. We'll be covering the late games, so 4 p.m. Sunday, the Sunday night games, and the Monday night game. And I'm joined by Nani and Oven Mitts, and we'll be covering the games, the 5 games. And we'll dive right into it here. So the first game we'll be talking about is the New York Giants at Tampa Bay, with the spread being Tampa Bay plus 2.5. And the over-under is climbing from 47, which is opened at, to 50. So what do you think about this game here? And let's start with the Giants players.
Yeah, so I think this game is going to be a little bit like public. A lot of people from the public are going to be playing the Giants because of the fact that we saw the Saints and the Giants have sort of a shootout last week.
Yep.
So, the Thursday percentages kind of play that out as well. Clearly, the team that won, the Saints, are going to get a little bit heavier ownership than the Giants, but they still are going to be pretty heavy owned, which means that the two guys that I actually like for cash games, which are Eli and Odell, are going to be high owned, which make them not such great tournament plays if you're trying to differentiate yourself. But Odell is Eli's favorite target, and in that game he got 3 TDs, and he does appear to be healthy now. The 2 previous weeks Eli had really off games, which is why he was low owned in these last tournaments. But with Odell healthy, I think that both of them are completely in play. Odell's 9,000, so he's not the most expensive
Wow.
receiver. Yeah, he's came up. Well, actually, he's been 9,000 pretty steady, hasn't he?
8,800, I think. 88.
8,800, yeah. So he's pretty much hovering around the second, third most expensive receiver. But I think against Tampa Bay's weak pass defense, they obviously have like a collectively bad defense, but they're particularly bad in the secondary. They're 29th against fantasy wide receivers, and Odell being pretty much the only receiver that Eli relies on. Add that to the fact that Ruben Randle hasn't looked good of late. His hamstring issue has probably been keeping him a little bit lower than he was earlier in the year. And Larry Donnell's out of this game. So, it's going to be him and Dwayne Harris the entire game. And if you're telling me, is Dwayne Harris the secondary option, I think that just means that Odell gets probably anywhere from 15 to 17 targets this game. And I like any amount of targets that Odell can get. For tournaments, I like Dwayne Harris. The
Hold the
last
door.
two
Sorry.
the last 2 weeks, Dwayne Harris has looked pretty good. He had the revenge game versus Dallas, where he got a kick return touchdown, and then he also caught a touchdown, 17 fantasy points there. And in this last week, he had a touchdown as well in the shootout. So I think he's becoming, if Donnell is out, I think he's Eli's second favorite target. I'm not really scared of Ruben Randle anymore. So I think for a flyer, I'm okay with playing Dwayne Harris. At 5,300 as well, he's pretty cheap. I think of him a little bit like I think of Tavon Austin right now, where it's like, everybody's focusing on Odell, and in the St. Louis offense, everybody's focusing on Gurley. So who's the secondary guy that can break away with a touchdown that nobody's expecting? And I feel like Dwayne Harris might be that guy.
He also has return potential too.
Yeah, but but I'm not banking on kick returns.
Yeah.
And usually, if I want to play a guy because of his punt return or kick return upside, I also want to play the special team / defense. And in this particular case, as I've been harping on for the last 3 weeks, the Giants' defense is not good. They can't stop the run, particularly the games before the Saints game, and now they can't stop the pass. They've obviously haven't been able to stop the pass all year, giving up 7 touchdowns to Drew Brees. So I think that the Giants, who have been somewhat of a sneaky play as a fantasy defense for the start of the year, are pretty much a fade for the rest of the year.
Yeah, interesting analysis. So it seems like you're kind of fading away from the Giants' running game entirely.
Yeah.
Probably for good reason. Like they haven't been all that great, right?
Yeah, I think you have to avoid it just because, and I think we've talked about this, they have sort of like a carousel going on. Like, you don't know whether it's going to be Vereen. You don't know whether it's going to... I can't even name all of them, but Rashad Jennings sometimes gets love. It seems like when Vereen gets love, Rashad gets no love. And if Rashad gets love, Vereen gets no love. Now all of a sudden, Orleans Darkwa, who got injured in the last game, but up until his injury was being heavily used.
Yep.
And then Andre Williams sort of being phased out, but he could always vulture a 1 or 2 yard touchdown just because that tends to be where they think he's good. So yeah, it's a complete stay away. If you are throwing a dart, you throw it at Vereen because he has 2 touchdown upside, whereas the other guys don't so much. But I'm not. I'm just staying completely away.
Yeah. Nani, anything to add about the Giants before we get to the Buccaneers and the Jameis Pick Sixton.
Nope.
He hasn't thrown a pick in 3 weeks, I think.
I
No.
heard that name somewhere and I loved it. So I'm
Pick
gonna
Sixton. I'm a
yeah,
fan.
Jameis Pick Sixton.
No, I think I agree with everything that everyone said this last game.
All right, then what do we think about Jameis Pick Sixton in this game?
In terms of the game, I think Evans is spot on. I think this is the spread is telling that it's +2.5 Tampa Bay, and it hasn't moved, and a lot of the public is on the Giants, and it still hasn't moved, and the point total has gone up. So this is telling that it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I'm also along the lines of thinking that this will be sort of an upset game where Tampa Bay will pull out a win. And because of that, there's some good plays here. I think Jameis Winston is a good cash play. He's priced at $6,700.
Wait. You just said what? Who's a good cash play? What? Huh?
Jameis Winston.
What? I need what? I'm
mean
not hearing
tourney
this
play?
right. I don't think this is working.
Wow, you guys don't like him as a cash play?
Do you mean
Ever
tourney
since I
play?
played Nick Foles in cash in week 2 or 3, I have not taken this caliber
But
of
you're
quarterback in a
typically
cash.
high. You're typically high on Nick Foles. Out of the three of us, you're the highest on Nick Foles.
Back when, after my cash game catastrophe that was headed by Nick Foles, I have not touched that, and I have not touched questionable quarterbacks. Okay, I had a little bit of Zach Mettenberger a couple weeks ago when I paid for that, but basically I'm learning my lesson, and I'm not taking, despite the, he's looked good the last couple weeks, and despite the fact that the defenses look bad, I am not in a million years putting Winston in a cash game.
I'm okay
Alright,
with
so
Winston.
we-
I mean,
we
look,
cut him off. Like, go ahead and defend yourself
his
here.
floor, his lowest fantasy outing this year is 13, and his best was so far against New Orleans with 20. At 6,700, he can reach. That's his floor is 13, and this is against the Giants defense, where they can be attacked through the air. I feel like this is a good situation where he can get more than 13, closer to 20, if not more than 20. I think that's sort of what I'm projecting him to get around 20 points, and for $6,700, I think that's a good price point. So that's what I have for Winston.
So you're clearly not scared off of the Jason Pierre-Paul return?
No,
No.
he's missing a finger. We're good.
And isn't like Prince, what's
Prince
his name?
Amukamara.
Amukamara. He's coming back too this week, right?
I think it actually said he's out this week.
Oh, he's
and
out.
he is their best cornerback, so it just got weaker. It just got worse.
I'm not worried. I think I'm projecting him to get 20 points, 20 or more. So I'm okay playing Jameis Winston. I think he's a good cash play. Pretty safe. I would say he'll get at least 13 or more. In terms of tourney play, there's a couple of good ones here. There's Mike Evans, priced at 7,500. He's against one of the worst passing defenses, which I've been talking about. He's averaging double-digit targets, and the Vincent Jackson's not there anymore. But he's getting the team is getting back Austin Seferian's Jenkins
We
back.
should say that Vincent Jackson is injured. He's
Yeah.
still on the team.
Yeah, he's injured. But Jenkins is coming back, and that might help the team a little bit in terms of getting some coverage off of Mike Evans. Because the last game he was looking at double coverage all game, so he was pretty limited in that sense. And I think with having a tight end coming back, that might actually help his value. So I think Mike Evans is a good at a good price point at 7,500 with really good potential to give you a lot of return. Another good player is Doug Martin. He's against the 23rd ranked running back defenses, and he quietly has the third most fantasy points this season. Like, that surprised me. I was just like, wow, really? He's the third highest scoring running back right now in the league. He's behind Freeman and Mark Ingram at second. And except for weeks 1 and 3, he sees at least 20 touches a game. So he's a high volume, high producing running back, priced at 7,100 against, a pretty, easy defense, 23rd ranked against running back defense. So I think this is a good scenario. I think he's priced pretty well at 7,100, and he's a good play for tourney.
Yeah. So for me, I think, I agree with the Mike Evans call. Always got that 2-touchdown upside.
Yep.
Particularly with the fact that all of the other weapons, Lewis Murphy and Vincent Jackson, should miss the game. I'm scared of Doug Martin. I think that, yes, while he is the third ranked guy, his big games come in like booms, right?
Yep.
So he has even though he has 20 touches, he has games where he doesn't actually do anything with the touches. So he scares me a little bit, and I feel like at the price point, I would rather have some of the guys in 6,600 a little better. So I'm not willing to pay for him at 7,100, but that's we're just threading needles there. I really like this week's Austin Seferian Jenkins. I think that we have to consider the fact that the receiver core is next to nothing. Winston, when Safarian-Jenkins was in the lineup, really focused on him. It's just that he kept getting injured. And considering the fact that there's not really any good tight end plays this week other than Gronk, Heath Miller, and Austin, I feel like he's one of the 3 guys you can safely plug into a lineup, where the other guys always have reason to give me a little bit of quivers.
What's he priced at?
57, I think. 57 or 52.
I think 52. 52 sounds about right. So he's one of the cheaper tight ends. He's a good option. For me, I'm a little bit more worried, just in terms of I want to see what his red zone targets look like if he's fully healthy or not, because it seems like they might be rushing him back because they want another weapon out there to help Mike Evans, and he could just be used as a decoy. I'm not sure, and I'm a little more scared to be rolling him out.
Right, but I'm just saying, given the situation
Yeah,
that we
I
have
think he's a good.
tight
I
ends
think he's a
this
good
week,
play.
with tight ends, can I actually ask this question? Who would you guys play at tight end? If you're not playing Gronk, who else are you playing? I know Heath Miller versus Oakland looks really appetizing. Olsen's scary because Olsen does this thing where he'll be like, I have 3 points, I have 20 points, I have 8 points, I have 20 points. So he's actually incredibly inconsistent. He just gets credit where I don't think he deserves as much credit. He's as inconsistent as any of the other tight ends.
I'd play Jordan Reed over him. I'd also play Tammy over him with the news that Hankerson's out.
I feel like Tammy's fool's gold, but we'll get to that later. And as far as Jordan Reed, Patriots are 6th best against tight ends, and they've played some named tight ends and have held them, all of the tight ends they face, under 10 points, most of them under 2 points. I feel like if that is the only part of the Redskins offense, they can key into Jordan Reed. So I'm just saying there's not like any safe tight end this week.
No, there isn't.
Gronk. It's kind of frustrating. I feel like usually there's some guy we can grab.
I'd agree with the Reed call. Like I think it's just better than like the Jenkins game. He's just coming back off an injury, so even though so I looked up his stats last time, and Austin Safarian-Jenkins is 3rd on the fantasy points per game list this week, and last year he wasn't that bad either. So he has a lot of upside, but just because of the situation where he's just coming off an injury, and he's injury prone.
So is Jordan Reed.
Yeah, so is Jordan Reed, but he's had a good game. I don't know. It's tough.
That's what I'm saying. I just think it's a
Yeah.
weird situation. This week
It's
you're
tough.
either paying for Gronk and the rest of your roster is suffering, or you're rolling with Heath Miller, and there's not much else.
Or
So
dare I
that's why-
say, Eifert players if you're in the Thursday week.
Yeah, but that was none of us know who Eifert is, right? Let's move on.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, so shall we move on?
Yes, sir.
There we move on. Okay, so the next game I have is the Atlanta Falcons, and I have weird names today, so bear with me. Atlanta Falcons versus the San Francisco 40 Benchers. And it's
God.
Atlanta at San Francisco, with the spread being +7 San Francisco, and the over-under is 44.5. And obviously the news here is Kaepernick's getting benched for the first time, and what's his name? Blaine Gabbert is coming in. So it's going to be interesting. I think that's why the spread is changing so much.
Hard to believe that there's that is a 3-point line movement when you go from Gabbert to Kaepernick. I think they're pretty similar, don't you guys?
Yeah. Kaepernick, I watched a video when he was getting interviewed about him being benched, and he was just like,
no.
he obviously sounded pissed, but he was trying to sound like he was a team player.
I have to
Poor
blame.
guy.
But he was basically saying, I respect the authorities, and they make the right decision. Give credit to Blaine and the rest of the team, stuff like that.
Yeah, he's just trying not to look like a baby so that when they trade him to someone else, he gets a decent contract.
Yeah. But it's sad. So that's what's happening. I think there's still some relevant players on at least the Falcons side. So
Definitely the Falcons.
let's hear about some of these.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail on these because we've been sort of pounding these to death, and everybody has if you listen to any podcast. But Devontae Freeman, second highest priced tight end, actually the first highest owned tight end running back. Second highest running back, and he's also the highest owned running back in the Thursday games, and I think for good reason. We just saw Todd Gurley light up the 49ers last week. Devontae Freeman's on the streak of every game he's been the main starter when Tevin Coleman isn't a factor. He's been over 100 yards from scrimmage in every single one of those games. So he gives that high floor, but he also, as we've seen, has the high ceiling, and it's a 3 touchdown ceiling. So if you can afford to get him in your tournament lineups and your cash lineups, I think it's all systems go on Devontae, and it's probably that way the rest of the year until they get to the point where they're locked in the playoff spot and they're, working Tevin Coleman in a little bit for health reasons. But I think for the next, 5 weeks or so, I think we're good to go with Devontae.
Agree.
Yeah. So for tournaments, I like Julio Jones. It's hard not to like Julio Jones. He is the highest priced wide receiver. They like to focus him in the passing game and pretty much no one else. If someone else is getting thrown to, it's because the play is broken. I'm okay with you playing him in cash. I personally won't be playing him in cash because the way that I think the game script goes, I think that Falcons, for once, get a decent lead in the game pretty early, and then it's pretty much just a run game the rest of the way. So that doesn't give Julio a high ceiling. The only way that Julio's value probably gets retained is if somehow Blaine Gabbert comes out and looks decent. Does anybody see that world where that happens?
Right.
Yeah, and you have to add to the fact that there's no 49ers defense. They really don't have a run game at this point. Bolden's out. They just traded Vernon Davis. They're closing up shop, and I feel like the whole team is probably going to be giving up. So I think Devontae Freeman's probably the play. Tournaments, Julio Jones, and I'm not too strong on that. I do think that a decent tournament play, possibly even a cash play, is the Falcons' defense. Blaine Gabbert didn't look good when he was on the Jags. He was throwing picks on the Jags. He's a backup for a reason, and
His record is 5-22 starting.
yeah, almost as bad as Ken Wisenhunt, who now has no job. So the only reason I put them in tourney as opposed to cash is because they do have a depleted secondary. They lost their safety, and last year when they lost the same safety, they had lost the 3 games he missed, and he's out. So, I do like them sheerly because of the 49ers sucking really bad. There's also this sort of, angle you can take where it leaked out that the 49ers staff were going to bench Kaepernick last week, but they chose to wait until they could face the soft Falcons defense. Like, that leaked out. And the Falcons Twitter just retweeted it and just wrote, "Oh." So they're like, the team is aware that the 49ers think that they have a weak defense, which gives them extra motivation in a game that they should dominate. So you would think maybe they would lose some motivation halfway, but maybe not this time, just because of the trash talk. And for fades, I actually have Jacob Tamme. I feel like, last week, it was a passing game. They were behind. At the very end of the game, they were throwing bombs to Tamme, and Tamme actually caught a touchdown. Yep. Like I said, based on game script, I do not think Tamme gets the type of attention that he was getting in that game. And let's see, do you guys know the Thursday percentage on Tamme? I'm reckoning that it was actually probably pretty high.
2%.
2%? The
Yeah.
public's not as stupid as I thought, although they are on Ben Watson. For 17%.
They'll show you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I agree. It's just the game script that keeps me away from the Falcons player, really.
I mean, for me, I have somewhat of a love for Tamme because, for one, he helped me win a good amount of cash last week.
Yeah, we didn't mention that, but old Nani over there actually was part of the Giants-Saints shootout and was actually able to pull in some money, some decent money compared to what me and Square get these days.
You had the Eli OBJ stack. No.
So for Tamme, the reason why I like Tamme was that since Hankerson has been limited or out.
Hi, Dad.
Let's get the elephant out of the.
Hi, Dad.
So since Hankerson has been limited or out since week 5, Tammy's been getting 5 or more targets per game, and he's getting in week 5 he got 10 targets, and then in week 8 he got 12 targets. And when he got those double-digit targets, he produced a lot, and he was able to get a touchdown as well last game. And considering that his ownership's only at 2%. I think he's a pretty decent play at 5,200 too. His price didn't go up either, so I'm okay playing him. I think for that price point.
I feel like you're really touchdown dependent in a game where they're not going to be throwing very much, which makes him just hard to play.
I like his volume though. That's the thing. The thing about him is that the volume is there.
The volume's there because the game scripts up to this point have been such that the Falcons are throwing because they're always behind.
That's true.
In this game, are we thinking that the Falcons are going to be behind?
No, I doubt it. But
This Blaine Gabbert is a
they gotta be up though. They gotta be up somehow. I'm
Yeah,
just thinking
that's true.
more.
I mean, you're banking on the first quarter. You're banking on the first quarter. One question, and I want a one-word answer from each of you, and then I'll give you mine. If you were forced a gun to your head to play one 49er, who would it be? And the defense is included. Square or go.
Blaine Gabbert for the upside.
All right, Nani.
I'd play the kicker.
Oh, yeah, in Fanduel you can play the kicker.
He
Man,
doesn't get points for punts. Do you know that?
yeah, that's true. That they're gonna get down the field. I'm gonna go Quentin Patton.
Who?
Quentin Patton, number 11. He's like their streaker, the other streaker
Oh.
that's not Torrey Smith.
All right. So I'm supposed to talk about the 49ers or whatever team they have left. And I am just fading the whole team altogether. Like, I have no cash plays, no tourney plays. And I don't think any of you guys have any potential cash or tourney candidates. And I'm just
San
going to...
Regret those words.
San Francisco 40 benchers. You should bench
Yeah.
them all.
So I'm fading the whole team. But I have a question for you guys.
Let's hear it.
Can you guys name the starting running back for the Niners this week?
He was the Saints' backup.
Oh, is it
Right.
Pierre Thomas?
No, it's not.
Is it Mike Davis?
No, it's not.
I don't remember
Mike Davis
his name.
is injured. He's out.
It was like the deep backup.
Yeah,
on the
it's
Saints.
let's just like
Chandron? Chandron?
It's not Chandron.
It's not Chandron. But
He's
he's
on the
part
team,
of...
though.
It's a three-headed committee right now, but they have a leader in the committee.
Let's hear
One
it.
of them is Pierre Thomas. The other one is Chandron. You guys give up?
Yeah.
Kendall Gaskins.
Ooh.
Exactly. So for one, it's a
The San
three-headed...
Francisco 40 who's?
It's a three-headed committee. Stay away. No one should be playing this guy and hoping that he'll just gash the Falcons.
No one.
This is almost like a rec team
Your,
playing
your
real football.
our viewers are smarter than this, Nani.
I know.
Yeah.
Just saying. No one knew who the running back was. So, and it'll stay that way, I think.
All right. Okay, I think we're done with the 49ers. We're going to move on to the next game here. So the next game is the Denver Broncos versus Indianapolis Colts. And this is a drama game. It's a headline game. It's Old Manning returning to the Colts. And not just for this might be his last time returning to the Colts Stadium. And he's about to break the win record and the most yardage record for QB position. So it's very fitting that he's going back to the Colts for this. And Indiana also has their own drama. Their offensive coordinator got fired. They're playing Andrew Suck this year.
Why do you keep doing this?
I have this ready for the day.
Andrew
We're gonna have
Suck.
Andrew Suck this year. He might have to turn that Suck into a Luck this year, but it's not looking like it against the Broncos defense. But it's a drama game, and Manning is probably gonna beat a record here. So it's the script is real here, boys.
I'm scrolling through this, and it seems as though Nani had to do no analysis. 'Cause the teams he got stuck with have no plays.
All right, so maybe we'll start with the Colts players here, and see who we like or fade.
All right. So I'll just say there's no one I really like this week again. What? You guys have someone you guys want to throw out and put
You
your
don't like
neck on the
Andrew
line?
Suck? You don't
No.
like Andrew Suck for 8,700?
Can I throw out a play?
Sure.
I like what's his name? I like Kobe Fleener. The sheer reason for this, and I'm probably not playing him, I'm just throwing out the information, is that Chudzinski is the guy who got promoted to the offensive coordinator job that the guy who got fired, he replaced him. And Chudzinski was the coach for the Browns when Cameron had his breakout 8 games out of 16. He was good half the year until they fired him. And then he also worked for the Carolina Panthers and got Greg Olsen into the higher ranks when before he was sort of a middling tight end. So there's a possibility that Kobe Fleener stands out, and I'm choosing him over Dwayne Allen because there's some rumors that Dwayne Allen was on the trading block, which makes me think that they don't really like him.
So just to sort of piggyback on that, I was going to mention him, but I didn't really feel too strong against him or for him. The only thing I have is that the Denver defense has only allowed 2 touchdowns to tight ends all season, and both of them were to Barnage,
Yeah.
the matchup
Yes.
proof Barnage, who we did say to fade this week because he didn't have his quarterback at hand. So.
We've said fade every week and been punished. We took our own horn on the
So-
one week we got it right.
Yeah, we got it right, guys.
I think
So-
I jumped on the bandwagon and probably got burned.
Yeah.
So other
Yeah, you
other
believe in the
players I'm fading are Andrew Luck. Yeah, we all saw what Denver did to Aaron Rodgers. I'm not gonna pay premium $8,700 for Andrew Luck and just hope that he breaks that trend
Why hasn't his price gone down?
because he's Andrew Luck.
Ugh.
Andrew suck.
The receivers for the Colts, I don't like any of them either. T.Y. Hilton's priced at $7,700, way too expensive. He might not even play this game, so make sure you guys are paying attention to his injury. Wow, Moncrief is priced at $6,400. He's been pretty good, but again, against this defense, I will stay away. And Andre Johnson's priced at $5,600. If I had to choose someone, I would probably go with Andre Johnson just because of price and just hoping for a lottery ticket. But the way the Denver defense is really good against the pass this year. They've only allowed 1 touchdown to wide receivers this year, and it was to Minnesota. But it's not like they were going against easy teams. They've gone against teams like Baltimore, Oakland, Cleveland, and Green Bay. So they've gone against some formidable opponents, and they've held them in check. So it's really scary, really, especially since Luck is struggling, and I really don't want any part in this offense, at least this week.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Gore is a player that, Frank Gore, he's on the line for me for fading and having as a turning play, just because his volume is so questionable and his points is just going up and down. But he is priced at $6,700. I do think there are better options this week, so I do not like Gore
Yeah,
that much.
particularly in that price range.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I would rather have Hillman, who's in the game.
yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
that's-
so,
that's
yeah.
it.
For the Denver side, I think last week we saw like a new Peyton. They had the bye week, and then something changed, and all of a sudden Peyton was good. And I'm going back on everything that I've been saying all year. I thought Peyton was bad, and I've sort of come to this like realization that maybe Peyton's not bad. Maybe they've just been using the wrong sort of schemes. If you think back in the past, Peyton had Wes Welker, and if things looked hairy, he would be able to check down to Wes Welker. And then last year, he had Julius Thomas. And both of those guys were sort of like the safety valves. And this year, he doesn't have either of those guys.
Owen Daniels.
That's the thing. That's the thing is that Owen Daniels is not particularly a good tight end. And I've been
No.
touting Virgil Green all these tight. But what you'll notice is that in a game where Peyton actually looked good, the tight ends got over 100 yards. In the collective games throughout the season, they only had 130 yards total. So to get 100 yards, over 100 yards in one game, and they had significantly more targets as well. So clearly they've changed the scheme here, and it works better for Peyton, and it works better for the run game where they got 3 touchdowns. So I think the offense is more opened up, and they don't have to depend so much on the defense, which was pretty much carrying old man Peyton through the games. And I also think that this logic is why they traded for Vernon Davis. He's a better tight end than either of these guys, and I think down the line, Vernon Davis could actually be a worthwhile fantasy play. For this game, I think that the only guy in cash that I'm looking at is Demaryius Thomas. His targets have not been going away. I think the min was 7, and the max, or these are catches. These are like receptions. The min was 7, and the top end was 14. And he's always getting a ton of yards. It would be surprising to hear that he's actually, despite all this attention, only gotten 1 touchdown this year. But I think that with this new opened up offense where the run game actually matters and they're using the tight ends, I feel like that opens up more opportunity for Demaryius Thomas. He caught a couple touchdowns on a couple catches on the 1 yard line, and I feel like for the rest of the season, Demaryius Thomas at that price, 8,400, is actually going to be worth the value, which we haven't been saying up until this point.
Yeah.
He's going up against Vontae Davis. He's like,
Yeah, it doesn't scare me.
Doesn't
It
scare
doesn't
you.
scare me because I think of Demaryius Thomas as probably one of the best playmaking receivers there are. Peyton throws up some ducks sometimes. where they look like they're going to be intercepted or they're going to hit the ground, and the dude somehow comes up with it. And I think even in a bad matchup with Vontae Davis, I'm still willing to stick my neck out and play Demaryius Thomas, particularly with the volume that he gets
And the price.
and the price. Well, he's not really listed as one of the elite, but it is still pretty high. I think he's priced right where he should be. If he did go to something like 87, 89, I would probably, I know it's only a few hundred, but that's probably where I'm starting to draw the line because I could as well play Odell at that point. For tourney and maybe even for cashes, the Denver defense, according to PFF, Andrew Luck has been a worse quarterback than Colin Kaepernick this year. Yeah. And what's crazy is that last year he was a pretty good quarterback, but it comes down to the fact that under pressure he's way less accurate than he once was, and he's throwing a lot more interceptions this year. He's shown, I believe, is it 12? Whatever, I think it's around 12, but he's thrown 6 interceptions under pressure, which is more than he had in the entire season last year under pressure, and 6 when he's not under pressure. So he's just making mistakes, which is either a problem with the O-line or a problem with Andrew Luck himself being injured or just making mental errors. But I think the defense can, particularly this defense, which was able to stop Andrew Luck or Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers isn't the type to make mistakes. Andrew Luck is. So where Aaron Rodgers only got 77 yards and no interceptions, I think Andrew Luck's going to push the ball in places where it probably shouldn't be, leading to interceptions, and possibly you can get a pick six, but you're definitely going to be getting at least sacks. So I think that the Denver defense at 5,300, it is a max, but it is probably a high upside play with the potential for touchdowns. For fades, I have Emmanuel Sanders. During that game, let's just say early in the year, Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas were getting about the same amount of targets. Since that point, Emmanuel Sanders' targets have gone down and Demaryius Thomas's haven't gone anywhere. In this last game, Emmanuel Sanders was only targeted 5 times. He only caught 2 of those passes, and he looked visually frustrated. And I think that the fact that they're going to start integrating the tight ends and the running backs more makes him even less desirable, considering that Demaryius Thomas's targets aren't going anywhere. I think there's a possibility Peyton sort of feeds Emmanuel Sanders maybe a touchdown, but it isn't going to give him enough upside. It's not as guaranteed as I feel like Demaryius's targets are. So I'm not playing Emmanuel Sanders. The tight end trio, Vernon Davis, Owen Daniels, Virgil Green, staying away, 3-way split, not wanting any of it. And the running back duet of Hillman and CJ Anderson is too questionable for me.
So do you not like Peyton Manning as anywhere on this sheet?
No, because I tend to be like the wait and see approach, and I saw already once that Peyton sucked, but I also saw 7 games or 6 games before that where he was really bad. So much like I haven't gone all in on Stephon Diggs despite several good games, I want to see this happen at least one more time.
And not after a bye.
Yeah, this one's not after bye. So there's also a possibility that he was just incredibly fresh after the last game.
Yeah.
And that's why he looks so good. And then in this game, he might be a little rusty. I think it's a scheme thing. And if it works this game, then I'm okay playing Peyton. But I do want to see it one more time.
So for me, I'm a sucker for little TV drama. So, I mean, Square's already set it up a little bit. He's like, this is, Peyton Manning coming back home to Indianapolis. It could be his last. I love that. And last week, the logic when the winning lineup that I had, the logic was I wanted to play Eli and Odell in New Orleans because the drama with that was that it was their homecoming for both Eli and Odell because they were going back to New Orleans. And I was like, you know what? There's a good chance that they could just, perform really well and blow up. And they did. And I was like, I got paid and it was sweet. For me, I'm sort of buying into this, Peyton's going to come back. He's going to come back strong. He's only priced at $7,700, and he's low owned too, according to the Thursday ownership. He's only about 2-3%. So I'm going to gamble. I'm going to put him out there and stack him with Demaryius Thomas even maybe, and then hope to get paid. I think it's worth a shot in the dark, and if anyone can do it, it could be him. If not, oh well, that's it. But
No, I also like the stories, but like when I think about Peyton and him having he wants to come back to the Colts stadium and then play well, Like I feel like he has more sympathy for the Colts team right now as an organization, because it's like very reminiscent of what happened to him when he was there. Like when he was about to leave and go to Denver, all the coaches were getting like slowly fired, and then they were like all the players were walking on eggshells. They were like, "Who's gonna get fired next?" And I think he like would see that in the Colts right now. Their offensive coordinator just got fired, and Andrew Luck's sucking. The team's kind of like down on their spirits. I feel like he has more sympathy towards them rather than like I'm gonna show these guys up
Mm.
and
At
be
the
a
same time, I
homecoming
do
king.
feel like Peyton is one of the more cognitive players of the record books,
Hmm.
and
That's true.
maybe the record books
Was it last year?
breaking the record on his old team could be really juicy. Like that's a nice narrative. And just to support, I mean, I just said that I probably wouldn't play Peyton. Just to support your Peyton play, and I know this was a different Indianapolis team and a different
Sure.
Peyton Manning, like very much, but they've played twice. Once at Indianapolis in 2013, the final score was 33-39. Indianapolis won that game.
Hmm.
Peyton Manning was 29 for 49, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception on 386 yards passing. Pretty good, right? And then he played again last year. They won that game 31-24, 22 of 36, 269 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So he scored 3 touchdowns in both times he's played against the Colts. Maybe it's a vendetta. Maybe that was just the way the
But that
team
was
used to
also
be.
like during the time when, Peyton was the Omaha King. Like he was just going after the most touchdowns in one season,
Yeah,
most pass.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's going for most passing touchdowns in the season, and I see that. I just, the history books don't lie.
right.
If you follow history, he likes to throw on the Colts, and I do feel like there's a chance we might see a 3 touchdown game. I'm not. I'm just saying that it is a chance. There's also the chance that you see what we saw last week, which is a
Oh
good
yeah.
Peyton but a bad fantasy performance. He had
Yeah,
380 yards passing, no touchdowns, ended with 11 points.
right.
Incredibly disappointing. And if they're actually sticking to the run game, which they were in the red zone, then I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't do it. And add to the fact that Demaryius Thomas only has one red zone target this year.
Yeah, it's
Staying away
scary.
from Amari Cooper for that reason, why aren't we doing it for Demaryius Thomas? Right?
It's true.
That was a long
Sad.
analysis of the
It
death.
was, yeah, there was a lot of drama and emotions there. It took a lot out of me. All right, we'll tread right along here, though. So the next game is not as drama-filled, but it kind of is. I'll introduce the drama here. Um,
Please.
so it's the Eagles versus Dallas, and this is kind of it's not a revenge game, but it's a team revenge game, maybe. This is they played earlier in week 2, and this is the game when they played against each other. Romo got injured against the Eagles. Um, so that's the only drama I have here. It's not as intense as the previous game, but
There's a couple other
yeah.
dramas. Can I say? Can I say them?
Oh yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so one drama is that DeMarco Murray versus his old team again.
Oh, that's
Last
right.
time he looked pitiful, like getting stopped behind the line several times, and since then the offensive line has gotten healthier and he's been running a little bit better. They've taken him out. He's like running from the shotgun now, so the scheme has changed to benefit him. So he may have a little bit better luck running against the Cowboys. The other drama is that Greg Hardy from the Cowboys defense, the pictures of his allegedly beaten girlfriend came out today, and the Cowboys have yet to comment, and the NFL has yet to comment. And last time something like this happened, where Ray Rice's video leaked, he was booted from the team and put on the NFL's exempt list so that he couldn't play. And I think there's a possibility here that that might happen to Greg Hardy, and he might not be able to play this Sunday, which would make DeMarco Murray's stock go up because Greg Hardy is actually a pretty elite defensive end.
And my buddy and my boy Sam Bradford's value goes up too.
Yeah.
All right, but let's do the critical analysis of the players here, and we'll start with the Dallas players while we're at it.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, like DeMarco Murray is looking better, and in previous casts I had said that I wasn't happy with his price. Nani always argues, the volume's there. He's the goal line guy, and I see that, but I'm still not willing to pay premium for a guy who hasn't really shown insane skill. I think at 7,500, that's just the right price I'm going to pay given the volume. So I think the revenge script plays, he has another chance at the Dallas defense.
Yeah.
And you have to
Revenge.
consider, yeah, you love the revenge script. You also love DeMarco Murray. This is the perfect combination. So I'm assuming he's in all of your lineups?
A good portion of them, yeah.
Yeah, so you're playing him. You love the revenge script. What was I going to say? Oh, and add to the fact that Ryan Matthews is questionable for the game. He's likely, what is it? He's been practicing in a limited fashion, but Ryan Matthews has a tendency to not play games at the last minute, and the Eagles have a tendency to not play guys that are injured at the last minute. So I think there's a possibility he gets the entirety of the workload, mix in a little bit of Sproles here and there. But at 7,500, I think it's worth a tournament play. I don't have anybody for cash. I think in general you're going to fade most of this game because the Eagles tend to be really inconsistent, so you can't really play their quarterbacks or their running backs confidently, and they spread the ball around so much it's hard to pick on which receiver they're going to use. And as I say in all the other casts, Dallas likes to control the ball, so if Dallas is successfully able to control the ball, slow down the game, it makes the Eagles players a little bit less relevant. The Dallas players are mostly already irrelevant, so I don't know. I don't see much fantasy goodness in this game. What about you, Nani?
In terms of the Eagles, I mean, if I had to, I love Murray. I think his price point's nice. I think, he's going to get a lot of play, especially with, you said everything. Matthews being questionable. He's going to get a ton of volume. And the last time he went against his old team, he was like getting pissed, getting amped. He was fired up. He was like wanting to run really hard against his old, like he wanted the revenge factor. Like we always talk about revenge and, the players that will try to like do well against their old team. It was very clear that he wanted to like show him what's up.
Yeah, I'm usually against your revenge script because I feel like the players don't actually have hatred for because they left on mutual terms or whatever. There's no real revenge. This was a scenario where there was actual revenge. They did not pay him the money, so he had to leave.
Yeah,
and he's going to Dallas this time instead of playing at.
Yeah, he's going to be
Philly.
at Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree with everything. I think it's too hard to say that any of the Philly players are a good play just because it's so questionable how they'll perform. I agree with you. I don't like anyone else to really endorse anyone.
I see you have Darren McFadden here, though.
Oh no! So from my side.
Yeah, we're talking about the Dallas players.
Okay. For Dallas players, I don't. The same thing. There's not a lot of good cash plays. There's no safe plays in this game. In terms of tourney, I again like Darren McFadden again this week at price at 6,500 because he has a ton of volume. Again, like a lot of volume. It was clear last week that he had a lot more touches than Christian Michael. So since taking over the starting job, he's had 31 touches and 26 touches. And in those 26 touches, he had 6 catches. So he's even being used in the passing game. So he's a little bit more, he'll be an every down back. It's a good situation. So he's a good play based on volume. It's really hard to see that he'll find the end zone because Philly has only allowed 1 rushing touchdown this season, and that was last week to Jonathan Stewart. So he is a little capped in that sense. But because of volume and the being involved in the passing game, I'm okay playing him for 6,500 and hoping that he gets a touchdown this game. In terms of fades for Dallas, because Matt Castle is at quarterback, and I don't like Matt Castle, so I will fade Matt Castle, and I don't need to explain why. I also will fade Des Bryant and Jason Witten. Des Bryant, last week we were talking about how he was injured, and he's coming back, and you can't really trust him, especially against that defense in Seattle. He played all game, and he was running routes just fine. And this is a little bit better of a matchup, but again, Matt Castle, I really don't like that scenario. And Jason Witten has been pretty awful all season, and I don't see that changing with.
He's been pretty average.
Is he? Like
He's okay.
under 50 yards a game?
For his price point, nah.
No.
No, not for his price. I agree for his price. I just think he's generally been an average tight end, like 5 catches for 40 yards.
Top
40
10
yards.
tight end?
Nah.
He's
that's a stretch.
consistently around the 12th tight end. I don't know. I don't think he's terrible. He's definitely okay.
There's better options at tight end. And Des
Yeah.
Bryant, for a receiver with so many questionables, he's priced at 7,900, which is way too much for me to, endorse as a good tourney play.
If Romo comes back, or when Romo comes back, are you willing to jump on Dez in that very first game?
Yeah, I think so.
His price will be good, right?
I mean, it won't be any that much higher than 7,900. I think that's sort of where he's gonna be. So, I'll be okay playing him for that price point.
Yeah.
Uh, Fun little question for you guys.
What's up?
So let's play which backup quarterback will score more this week? Blaine Gabbert versus Matt Castle. And we'll make this not pure fantasy points, but fantasy points per price.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
So
What's the price of Blaine Gabbert?
Matt Castle is 6,300,
hmm
and I don't know Blaine Gabbert.
I'm guessing the min.
I
Maybe more.
didn't bother looking at Blaine Gabbert.
He's in all my lineups. I know it off the top of my head. I think no matter what you come up with, it's going to be Matt Castle. Blaine Gabbert's ceiling's probably like 100 yards and 150 yards and
He's
a touchdown, maybe.
5,400.
Yeah, I think I just go with Matt Castle.
Nah, I'll go Blaine Gabbert. I hate Castle.
For the fun.
No, I just don't like Castle.
You know, okay, so you like Gabbert more? So I read an article that compared Blaine Gabbert's playing style,
Is it to Matt
and
Castle?
there's a quarterback in that they compare him very well to. Can you guess who it is? It's not Matt Castle.
Damn.
It's not Matt Castle.
Is it
McCown.
Bortles?
It is Alex Smith.
Ah,
Who
Because
I
he-
compared to Matt Castle.
So yes, but it's because he throws dinky passes all game, and that's who Blaine Gabbert is. So you choose Gabbert.
I'll still take Castle.
Yeah, I'll take Castle just because of the team.
I'll take Gabbert just because I get to divide by 5,400 and hope for the best.
All right, so we'll check up on that next time we cast. But let's keep this rolling to a more fantasy relevant game, in my opinion. And I think this is an exciting one. It's the Chicago Bears versus the San Diego Chargers. And I think there is a lot of fantasy goodness. We've been using this term today, so let's keep it going. Fantasy goodness to be had in this game. So let's start with the Chargers players and see what we
Okay.
like.
I actually have players that I will throw out.
Yeah,
For
this is
once.
the one game he had to analyze. He had it
Yeah.
easy.
Exactly.
So Stevie Johnson is a good play at 5,400 for cash. He has a nice matchup. He gets a lot of action. He's hasn't had a lot of play recently since coming back from his injury, and that has a lot to do with Gates being there to limit him. For me, I think his value is really tied to Gates a lot. So if Gates is limited in any sense, I really like Stevie Johnson more. But now that Keenan Allen is out, and Keenan Allen sometimes plays a slot and he'll go through the center of the field, Stevie Johnson will now be more involved now. So I actually think Stevie Johnson, regardless of Gates, I think he's an okay play at cash. Philip Rivers is also a cash play. Even the turning play, I think, is fine for Philip Rivers. Priced at $8,600. For 5 straight games, he's gone over 300 yards, more than 300 yards. Only 2 games all season where he's gone less than 300 yards. He's against the 25th ranked quarterback defense, and he's only had one game with 1 touchdown or less, or just 1 touchdown, right? And in that game, he still had 16 fantasy points. Like, that tells you that he has a very high floor, and he's going to get you at least 16, and then if not more. So I think he's a good safe cash play and potential tourney play too. If you're feeling like this is going to be a shootout, I'm leaning more towards just a cash play. I don't think it's going to be a total shootout. And the reason for that is because I have a tourney play. I think Melvin Gordon, who everyone is touting as, the worst running back. Chargers just throw. They can't run. Like, I've heard that so many times this week that I'm just feeling like Melvin Gordon, this is the game that he will finally get a touchdown at home, and he will sort of turn around his season, especially priced at $6,100. That's a pretty good price point for a running back that last game had 23 touches, and he's gonna get more involved now that the season's going on. That they already lost Keenan Allen. They put him on IR. That to me tells me that they were saying that Keenan Allen could have came back after a couple weeks maybe, but now that they just toss him on IR, that sort of implicates that they might be giving up on their season. They might want to just roll out Melvin Gordon and see what they have in this rookie and just really try to see the value and see if they can grow the organization with this rookie. So I think you'll see a lot more Melvin Gordon. I think he'll probably for sure have at least more than 20 touches this game. and I think there's a high chance that he'll find the end zone. It is a little worrisome. Well, I mean, he's against Chicago, right? They've allowed the fourth most rushing yards in the league, but they've only given up 2 touchdowns. So that sort of like scares me a little bit. But I'm really, really high on Melvin Gordon this week, and I think he will sort of turn it around and find the end zone, regardless of what everyone is sort of putting out in the public right now. Another good tourney play is Antonio Gates. He's in only 3 games he's played this season. He's tied with Keenan Allen for red zone targets at 8 on the Chargers team. That's crazy to me. He's just a big red zone target. He's always going to have that upside to have multiple touchdowns, as we saw this year. We had 2 touchdowns in that one game, and they were still targeting him and throwing him to the end zone. So it's hard to rule Antonio Gates. He's priced at, sorry, I don't have it, 66,000, right? 6,000?
Yeah.
So I think he's a good turning play just because he has that multiple touchdown upside. He is a little bit limited. He could be limited, but he has been practicing this week. So the indications are that he's a little bit more healthy than he was last week. Last week he only saw 50% of the snaps, so he was limited in that sense. But considering that he's already practicing this week, I think he'll see more than that, and he'll be more involved in the game. And I think you can trust him as a turning play. And for fades, I have Malcolm Floyd. He's not some new and upcoming player. Don't get this wrong. He's been in the league for a while. He's in the league since for 2003, 2004. He's 34. He's coming off a neck injury from 2013. Since then, he's never put up back-to-back double-digit games. So don't think that this is some Stephon Diggs coming out of nowhere. He's gonna all of a sudden be very heavily involved. He's always been on the team. He's always been there, guys. Don't be surprised. And he's okay. I think he's not bad. But the fact that he's 18% owned on FanDuel, making him like the 3rd highest owned player, I'm okay fading him and hoping that he just does what he does, just disappears. So I don't like him. I'm staying away from him this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think that 18% owning Floyd in the Thursday lineup is hilarious. I think people who are doing DFS and are doing fantasy are probably people who haven't been around the game for a very long time. They're like, oh, I do fantasy sports, and now they're getting into it. And they hear Malcolm Floyd's name for the first time and assume he's been around for a very short period of time. He is old. He's 34, and he is very inconsistent. So I can't disagree with you there. There is always the 2-touchdown upside because he is a deep threat. But I think the reason people are sort of going towards him is 1, recency bias, and 2, because Keenan Allen's injured, and they think, you know what, let's go to the next best guy. I don't think that's what's going to happen. He's always been the same guy who runs deep down the field, and when they design a play to throw deep, that's the guy, and I don't think that's changing. I think where we really do see the uptick is Stevie Johnson. Gates is always going to get the bulk of the targets. I don't think that's going anywhere. I think that Dontrell Inman, who's going to take the place of Stevie Johnson, is going to become a big factor. Last year, at the end of the year, Keenan Allen, I believe he broke his ribs, and he was out for the last 2 games. And in those games, Inman saw 9 targets and 8 targets. He caught 7 in the first game and 5 in the next game for a total of 79 yards, averaging 12 yards a catch and 16 yards a catch, which are pretty good stats. And I think he's going to take the Keenan Allen role as the possession receiver, and he's shown based on these stats that he has good hands. So he's going to hopefully absorb some of those red zone targets that Keenan Allen was getting. So I think he's pretty cheap. I don't know his exact price, but he's definitely cheap, and I think nobody's on him. So if you're trying to get a cheap tournament play at a guy who's probably not going to be very high owned and get a lot of volume, I think Dontrell Inman's the guy. Particularly if Gates plays, the defenses are going to be keying in on him, and the Chicago defense isn't very good. So I think Inman, do you guys agree with Inman, or?
I agree.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm just really high on Melvin this week, so I'm holding on to that hope.
Yeah, I'm with you on Gordon. It's just that I feel like we've had 3 or 4 weeks this year where we're like, this is the game. And with the Melvin Gordon thing, last game he got all of the love. Danny Woodhead had 1 catch. After saying that they were going to keep him involved, they only threw him 1 ball. And I think that was I think you're right. I think they were game planning for Melvin Gordon. But that was when Keenan Allen was healthy. With Keenan Allen injured, I'm not 100% sure that Melvin Gordon because they need someone to catch passes, right? Melvin Gordon's not the pass-catching running back. Woodhead is. So I think that although the plan may have been to integrate Melvin, I think that we may see more Woodhead now because Keenan Allen's injured. So I'm not all in on Melvin yet. I do think in the future, though, as they continue to lose games, they definitely feature him more. So on the Chicago side of the ball, for cash, I like Alshon Jeffrey. I think for 7,900, he's a wide receiver 1. On the team, there's not really anybody else worth looking at. I was on Martellus Bennett last week and got burned, and I think sort of similarly to Greg Olsen, to a higher extent, he's very volatile in that he can get you a lot of points or a little points more often, less points than more points. So I think Alshon Jeffrey, who has been targeted in the last 3 games 11, 11, and 16 times, is definitely worth a look at 7,900. He's over 25% of the time. He's the first look for Jay Cutler when he snaps the ball. So Alshon Jeffrey is going to be chalk. He's 23% or 20% owned in the Thursday game, but I think that's for good reason. And throwing him in a cash lineup is probably a good idea. Since his injury, he's been really relevant. The only other play that I really have for this game is Jeremy Langford. I originally thought, tournament play at best. And then I started looking into the stats, and it's just, I think he's definitely a cash play, particularly at 6,400. He's going to get the touches. He has the upside for multiple touchdowns, just as Forte did. Versus running backs, the Chargers are terrible, particularly against pass-catching running backs. And in the last 8 games, 6 of the games have gone over 100 yards. Add that to the fact that the Chargers' next game is a bye week. They're already losing a ton of games, and they're going to a bye week. I think this is one of those games where they're like easing up, don't want to get hurt before the bye week. Let's just get out of this week without any injuries. And I think that's where Jeremy Langford, who's trying to take the job, or at least look good to the rest of the league, is trying his hardest against a defense that sucks and may not be trying so hard. So I think that Langford is actually a consideration for a cash play. Any disagreements on Langford as a cash play?
No, I think the Chargers are giving up the most yards per carry. He's going to get heavy volume. One of the things that I was talking about with Oven Mints, was that I am so sick of the coach. Like the whole injury,
Oh, John Fox?
Yeah, the whole playing around with the injury news. So one thing I was bringing up with Oven Mints is that do we know for a fact that Forte is out? Because we
do now, yeah.
Yeah, we do now.
Yeah, we do now.
So the news is out. It's confirmed that Forte will not be playing this game. He's already ruled out. But before this, everyone in the media were all assuming that John Fox was just playing games, and he was just saying that he could be day to day, And then I was thinking there's nothing stopping him from actually being day to day and just jumping back into the lineup, So I was really scared of gambling on someone like Langford. But now that the news is official and Forte is out, I'm okay with this. I think he'll get the volume, and he's with Forte still playing. Langford was vulturing touchdowns from Forte. Don't forget, it's not like this guy is just out of nowhere. He was vulturing touchdowns already, so he's shown that he has goal line carries. So he'll be fine. He has multiple touchdown upside. I'm cool with it. I think cash and turning, he's good.
Yeah, I don't know that Langford is necessarily a goal line back, but I know that they have a problem with Forte in the red zone, because for the longest time, Michael Bush was stealing carries from him, and even through complaints, they still played Michael Bush. And that was probably the same thing with Langford. And Langford actually cost them the game last game, so who knows? Maybe he's actual crap. I heard scouting reports that he in college was actually not that good of a running back. But the opportunity versus that defense is just, you can't pass it up. You just got to take that risk.
Yep.
For tournaments, you can consider Jay Cutler. He's a cheap quarterback and a good matchup. It's a high over-under. If you don't buy into the fact that Melvin Gordon's going to be featured, then I think Jay Cutler's a good play because it's going to be a shootout. I personally think it's going to be a shootout. Having watched the Chargers games, almost every Chargers game has been almost 50 pass attempts from Phillip Rivers. So
another 13 touchdown games from the two teams?
No, I don't think you should stack games this week, but if you are stacking a game, this is a good one to stack. I think this might be a decent one. You just have to figure out who on the Chargers you're going to stack. It's pretty obvious on the Bears.
It's kind of reminiscent of the New York Giants versus Saints game. The Saints, who are, in my opinion, more like the Chargers, have multiple threats, whereas the Giants only have one real threat, and it's Alshon Jeffrey. So it's interesting. It's very similar.
I agree. I think it's same. I think that the Chicago defense is a little bit better than those other defenses, so it might not be as crazy.
Yeah.
But
So
we'll
not
see.
13.
Well, it's easy to say that there won't be the bold prediction. There won't be 13 touchdowns in this game.
8 touchdowns. 8 touchdowns.
I'm okay with 8.
None. Eight?
That's it.
More than eight? Less
Oh.
than eight?
I think less than 8.
All right, less than eight.
I said I'm okay with 8. That means I'm right on 8.
You're eight, so I'm greater than eight. You're right on eight. Less than eight. You're like really screwing yourself here, Ryan.
I know. I'm just being contrarian.
This is like the Price is Right when you're like second to last and the last guy like bets $1 above you or
I
whatever.
want to win. If I pick one of the other options, I tie.
All right. So I think that's all we have.
No, no, no.
Oh, we have more?
We have more. The 5,000 under 5,000 players.
Oh,
Okay, so
that's right.
the recap is last week. Every week we pick a player under 5,000, and I can see your face. You don't look too happy. Okay, so every week we pick a player under 5,000, and we just compete to see who's player under 5,000, essentially just a crappy player, does the best. This week I had Kyle Rudolph, Nani had Marcel Reese, and Square had Richard Rogers.
The Rogers.
He's like in love with the Rogers to Rogers, and Richard Rogers was the last place one. And he actually
lit.
caused a safety, so he so he was like a big no-go.
He found the end zone.
He did
The wrong end zone.
End zone.
Yeah, he found the wrong end zone. Yeah, so he had, because of the negative rushing, he actually ended up around 0. My guy had 1 catch for 22 yards, and Marcel Reese had 3 catches for, I believe, 30 or something like that. Marcel Reese ended up in first, especially with PPR. So this week we need to do the same thing, and I have not looked. Have you guys looked?
A little bit.
Oh, you would. You would get prepared.
I mean, it's every week, guys. Come on. Like,
I
So
know.
if you guys were curious, Blaine Gabbert is 5,400, so
Oh, so he doesn't
he
count.
doesn't qualify.
Yeah, I just think they don't
You
have
know I
their
checked.
minimum quarterback is below that.
I checked.
so I'll just go first since I already have mine. I will go with Dorial Green Beckham. In the past,
Nice.
I've sort of, I sort of endorsed him as a good play. He could come out and be good for tourney even, and that week he threw up a big goose egg. I think this week against New Orleans, the bad pass defense, also Kendall Wright being injured, I think this is a good scenario. I think this is a chance for him to actually put up more than 0. So I'm okay rolling
So
out
you
with
know that
Dorial.
pass blocking is not PPR. Right?
I know. I understand
Even
that.
with the Roto update saying that Dorial Green Beckham has to become a better pass blocker. That's
Run
what the
blocker, run blocker.
Run blocker. That's what the coach came out and said this week for him.
All right, I found mine.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going with Dontrell Inman.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Easy peasy. He's 5K. He actually lands right on it, and I gave all the reasons why already. I'm not going to do it again. Plus, I think his name's pretty cool. I like Dontrell Inman.
All right. Let me check how much Richard Rodgers is this week.
God.
He's against another bad matchup, the Carolina Panthers.
You don't care about the matchup. Come on.
I am going to go with Kyle Rudolph this week. I'm going to take
Ah.
your last week's pick. I think
Okay.
you're 1 week behind on his blow-up game. So.
I've never been right on Kyle Rudolph, so right there.
Kyle Rudolph. That's my pick this week.
Oh, we
He's
could have
against
picked
the
his name
Rams.
too.
Yeah. He's against the Rams, and the Rams aren't the greatest against tight ends, but they're good against pretty much everything else. So.
They're amazing against tight ends.
No, they're not. They're not.
We never play a tight end against Jeff Fisher. That's like the rule.
Well played.
But you're on Kyle Rudolph. Let's just end the thing. I hope he gets a safety. I hope this is a thing.
Somehow I know who's gonna give up the safety. That's the thing.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
just think the contest is not pick the highest points. It's pick the guy who gets the safety.
Oh, that's what we're doing? All right, so with that, I think we are done for week 9. So make sure to follow us on at the FantasyLabrats on both Twitter and Gmail platforms. We do like to do Twitter updates, last-minute picks on Twitter, and we've been spot on apparently so far on
Yeah.
those. So make sure to check those before the games. And let's sign off with that.
All right, give us the high five.
Oh yeah, the week
High five.
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay,